This is the Claws Out podcast coming to you live back home from the mic'd up studio here in Parramatta. I've got Gary, Junior and Senior all in the house. And apologies, we are running a bit late, but it's probably timely because the boys have had a little bit longer to digest some big news, not only with the West Tigers team, some unfortunate outs this week, but Jarome Luai, multiple media reports suggesting that he's already signed for the PNG Chiefs for 2028 and he will have a press conference tomorrow. So I promise we will talk about that soon. But Gary, firstly, it's good to be back home here at Mic'd Up after doing it at home on Sunday night.
Yeah, I was a little put off by seeing your bet on Sunday night. So
I think a lot of people were.
I'm very glad to be back in the studio.
It's not my bed, by the way. It's a spare room, but we won't go into that. Rob, how loyal are our viewers? Not just the viewers of the rugby league team, but West Tigers TV. We got over 2K views for both those shows we did on Sunday, and the West Tigers faithful boys debuted in impressive style last night.
Yeah, thanks to all the viewers and listeners for watching. The West Tigers faithful debuted with us yesterday, and they've already cracked 1,000 views, which is unbelievable. So just shows you what West Tigers TV is about, and you know we're really blessed to have all the subscribers and people that support all our shows, and most importantly, they provide great content. So we're lucky to have them on board. Looking forward to their show on Friday. And if you haven't caught the girls' show from last Thursday, there's a really good interview with Marina Go as well. So check out all our shows.
Not only is it a big day for the West Tigers on Sunday out at Shark Park, but the boys here have two big events on. Gary, tell us about the ambush event on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, there's an ambush event on at the Orange Grove Hotel. So make sure you get out to that. We have Gary Jack coming along starting at 2:30 on Sunday afternoon. Have an interview with Gary Jack. He's going to bring his book along. He'll be doing some signings of his book. We'll have a little bit of a discussion there as well. Should be a really good afternoon. Come meet Gary Jack and then sit down and watch the footy.
And Rob, new sponsors of West Tigers Life, the Summerhill Hotel. You'll be doing a watch-along there on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, we're really pleased to have the Summerhill Hotel on board. We're doing a watch-along. Josh, Shane and myself will be out there amongst plenty of other people from the Discord, and the best part about it is it's family friendly, so you can bring your kids, sit behind us. We're going to interview all the people that are coming along. We'll be doing like a pre-match sort of reaction, post-match reactions, and we're looking forward to a great atmosphere there, and we want to make Summerhill Hotel our home for those watch-alongs. Yeah,
great place, or two great pubs to go and watch the West Tigers play on Sunday if you can't get out to the game. But Junior, you're going to the game. How on earth did you get a ticket to that dump out there at Shark Park?
Yeah, I tried to secure some tickets yesterday, and fortunately enough for me, there were 3 tickets available, one of the stands there. So me, my wife and my father-in-law will be heading out to the game, and it'll be my first game in 2 years, funnily enough. So excited to see the boys live.
Well, the preview last week, I gave you a rap. You were outstanding, but I thought maybe it's just gone to your head a little bit. There's a saying in rugby league, a week's a long time in rugby league. So are you as bullish this week about your predictions as you were last year? You don't have to spoil them, but how confident are you about your predictions, not about the Tigers winning?
Yeah. Oh, no, my predictions I'm sure will be spot on. And I'm also optimistic that we'll get a win this week. So.
Okay, well, we'll save it for a minute. Coach can't be with us tonight, but he did send in some notes in Coach's clipboard. We're going to preview the game first, and we'll talk Luai later. But let's get the West Tigers team on the screen. Obviously, a couple of big outs. We knew that Api Coruscant was going to be suspended, so Tristan Hope takes his place in the number 9. Jareen Buller out for 3 or 4 weeks, so Taruva slots into the wing. Jarrell Skelton starts. Taruva slots into fullback, I should say, and Skelton starts on the wing with Tony Suka coming in for Kai Pearce-Paul, who was ruled out due to that HIA. Gary, was there anything that surprised you in that lineup, given the outs?
It's the Skelton and the Suka decisions are probably the biggest ones. I'm actually quite happy with them. But I thought Seyfarth being on the bench for most of the season might have got that call up to play in the second row. But I was quite happy to see Suka there.
In regards to Suka, I actually think it's the right decision given the fact that he's played full games in Cup, whereas Seyfarth only plays limited minutes coming from the bench. And to be fair, Seyfarth's probably only averaging about 20 minutes a game roughly, and it doesn't disrupt our bench. Like that 6-man bench is pretty similar to what it is most weeks. So happy for Suka to get a run. I just want to point out with Skelton, he was named against the New Zealand Warriors, and Tavana wasn't on an extended bench, and he started that day. Tavana is on the extended bench. So that is a possibility, but I'm happy with Skelton being there.
Tavana hasn't played in about a month. So I don't think a guy at 19, I'd be rushing him straight back after an injury layoff into that first grade side. I went out and watched the Magpies play on Saturday. Skelton was excellent in that game. And a lot of players who drop down to that level drop down to playing at Lidcombe or to one of those grounds that don't have a lot of people, they don't put their best foot forward. But Skelton still ran for 198 metres on the weekend and was quite strong. So I'm quite pleased to see him get that little bit of a reward for going and putting the effort in for the Magpies.
Is this the best side we could have put out, Junior?
I think so. Like Dad said, I think Skelton being in for Tavana sort of surprised me a little bit. Seyfarth being out as well surprised me, like being on the bench for Suka, but like Dad said, it's probably a good thing to do. I actually think Seyfarth's been very good in his limited minutes this year. Seems to cut out the error, and he's also cutting out that cheap option. He had a couple times in close games last year where he'd be the type of guy that would try to push the ball and hope the referee doesn't see it in the ruck and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm happy with the team that we're fielding this week.
Tristan Hope, I guess no surprise that he's starting at 9. What do you want to see from him, and how long will he play in this game, do you think?
It's definitely going to be a shared role. What I'd like to see from him, obviously, is just to make his tackles and give good service. He did overplay his hand a little bit in the South game, particularly in the second half when a couple of times he went from dummy half of the try. I'm not discouraging that, but, if people know you're going to go, they're going to be ready for it. So I just want him to be a little bit more, don't be so selfish. But if he makes his tackles, because he's one of those hookers that catches in the tackle and he is a target, but he was rested from the Magpies, so I'd assume he's going to start. And I guess he's going to share some minutes with either, Latu.
Who would you share it with?
Not Sione.
No, I'd share it with Latu. I understand the arguments about Latu's. There's a concern about Latu's defence in the middle of the ruck where he kind of tips people over into dangerous positions, defending in the middle of the field. I get that, but Latu's just one of the classiest players you could ever imagine to have. So I think Latu can play anywhere, but that's who I'd be sharing the minutes with.
I think that message to Hope this weekend almost has to be invisible. So go out there, provide really good service, get it out in front of your support players, and kind of just play that role. Just play that service role, work on your defence, and I think that's our best chance of actually winning this game. I don't want to see him taking too many options. I don't want to see him stepping out from dummy half. I want him to play a nice, simple game. And I think if he does that, that's his best chance to shine this weekend.
I don't think it's a game for Tristan Hope to kind of showcase his ability. I mean, we'll get into where we'll need to attack the Sharks and all that sort of stuff, but this is just going to be a game of second rowers and outside backs. He doesn't need to do much, Tristan Hope. Like Dad said, he's just got to make his tackles. I know we laughed at Adel on the pod on Sunday when he suggested Sione, but the more I look at how the Sharks play and how bad their defence is on the edges, the more I think Adel might have actually been onto something there. Just plug the hole in the middle and let our halves do the work. So
I think there'll be multiple times this year where Sione does come on and play hooker. He's done it twice already this season. And it's when we're getting late in a game, it allows us to use an extra forward. And that's kind of what we've been seeing. Use an extra forward, take Appy off at the end of the game, especially a game that's already won like Saturday was. And then you can just put someone like Sione out there to plug a gap. I think we'll see that happen multiple times this year. But I think we need more minutes than Sione can provide this weekend. So I think I agree with you, boys. I think it'll be Latu or possibly Madden coming on to play a little bit of that hooker role.
Jarome going to miss at least the next 3 games. You'd think common sense, that bye comes in 4 weeks, so he'll be out. You'd think 5 weeks, give him till after the bye.
A huge out. We've mentioned multiple times Jarome Buller, both second rowers. I mean, one's playing, and the hooker. They're almost irreplaceable. I mean, as great a job as Taruva will do, he's not Jarome Buller. And further to that, it takes away from what Taruva's done on the wing. He's had a couple of games in a row on the wing where he's been magnificent. But, that's what I love about the Tigers this year. It doesn't matter who it is. Next man up. Let's go get it done. I think there's some weaknesses there in the Cronulla team. If you look at that back line, Stone Street, Hiroti, there's some guys there that aren't regular people. Like their starting wingers are normally Katoa and Mulatalo at their best. So I don't think they're that dynamic. We'll get into the details later, but yeah, I think it's just going to be a bash and barge and grind and do what we've done to every team this year and win the battle in the middle.
What we lose with Buller being out is that ball playing ability that he started to show the last couple of weeks. That ball he threw for Taylor May on Saturday night, the double pump and putting him through a hole, that's what he's starting to develop into his game, and that's what Taruva doesn't have in his game. So that's something we're going to have a look. I think it puts a lot more pressure onto Adam and Jarome in the ball playing roles. So that's something they're going to have to be aware of as well. Just
a little bit of a big picture look, Junior, at the NRL ladder now. We've got obviously sitting in third place, sitting pretty, but a lot of adversity. I think a lot of Tigers fans, if you polled them at the start of the year, would say the 2 players we can't afford to be missing for any length of time would be Appy and Buller. Does this change your expectation for the next, say, 3 to 5 games? What's a pass mark now in terms of wins?
I've got my pass mark as 1 out of 3. I know people are going to think that's a pretty low expectation to put considering how we're travelling and then the teams that we're playing not travelling so great, being Cronulla, Melbourne and then Manly. I think we've effectively got half our spine out for the next 3 games. So, yeah, I think 1 out of 3 is a pass. 2 out of 3 is absolutely huge. And if we somehow go 3 out of 3, just book us in for the top 4 and don't even think twice.
And you talk about having half that spine out. It's the most creative players in our spine as well. So far this season, we've spoken a lot about our red zone attack, but the guys who are creating opportunities, it's both Buller and it's Appy. And that's really going to be something we've got to overcome.
Well, you talk about how good our middle's been going and our forwards, and Appy's the leader of that. I mean, we make, in some of the games we've played, we've made almost 10 metres more per set than our opposition. And that's because of Appy's ability to engage markers, get our forwards pushing up nice and flat, and get that momentum rolling out of our half.
And I credit Appy for a lot of the turnaround in Alex Twell as well. Alex Twell's, ever since Appy's came to the club, has probably been the guy who actually works with Appy the best and hits that advantage line better than anyone else. So it's going to be interesting what kind of happens around that area in the hooker.
We've banked 5 wins, which is a good thing, but this is going to be a really testing period in our season. I know teams like Sharks, Melbourne, Dogs, Penrith, 3 of them are not going half as well as they were last year, but we've got no games in the next 5 weeks at our traditional homes. I know 2 of them at home, but one's in Brisbane. I think one's at Combank against Penrith. So what's your pass mark, say, the next 5 games?
I'll be respectful to your question. As long as we don't have a spate of losses in a row, we're going to finish somewhere between 3rd and 6th. If we go loss, win for the rest of the year, we're home. We're in the finals easily. That's another 8 or so wins. How I want to answer the question, the pass mark is winning 1 out of 1 this week. I don't care that we're playing Melbourne in a fortnight. All that matters is next week. This team has been so focused on staying in the present, worrying about what's the task at hand and not looking too far ahead. And that's how we've got to look at it. We just can't be worried about Melbourne and whoever we got next after that. Is it, I don't know, Magic Round, Manly or whatever? Manly or whatever it is. Just worry about Cronulla. If you start looking at that big picture, the way the teams are going now, I think we beat Melbourne. Unless Melbourne miraculously find a formula to start winning, I think they're butt awful. Manly, we saw on the weekend, Parramatta dominated them in the first half through the forwards, which is the sort of game we play. And to Manly's credit, they found something in the second half and made a lot of tackle breaks. And cracked them open. They're not going to do that against us, although they are potent. I'm not denying that. But Manly without Turbo, they're a weak team. So I know they've won 5 in a row, but I don't really rate them. The hardest game out of the 3 will be Cronulla, particularly because we've got such a poor record down at Shark Park or Shark Fin Soup Park or whatever it is, Ocean Front something or other. That's the hardest thing about it. They seem to play well there, and if they get a lead, they're flat track bullies. We got to get them down and dirty.
For me, the next 3 weeks isn't really about how many games we win. It's about mentality. So far this season, in my view, we've been the most consistent side in the comp. We're showing up and playing a similar style every week. We're showing up and competing every week. What I want to see while we've got these guys out, big names out, is us show up with that same attitude. Show up with that same commitment. Show up ready to play. If we show up in the next 2 weeks and we lose games by 4-6 points, I'm okay with that. If we show up and we get a score run up on us a couple of weeks in a row or 2 out of these 3 games coming up, that's where our season starts to fall apart. So it's all about mentality for me. It's all about how we show up and what we put out on the field each game.
Let's put the Cronulla Sharks team on the screen. Not a whole lot of changes from the side that was disappointing in their game of Oztag against the Cowboys last week. They went down 46-34, but they do make some changes to the makeup of their starting side. They got Nickera back in the back row and Cameron McInnes starts at lock. Junior, what are you made of their season so far and that team they're running out Sunday?
I think it's been disappointing for them. I think they definitely expected to be in the top 4 at around this point of the year. I think this is probably one of the better forward packs that they've named with Nickera coming back in. I had in my notes, which we'll get into later, about how poor Billy Burns is defensively. So seeing him on the bench, I was a bit disappointed with that. I would have much loved to have seen Billy Burns named with Teague Wilton. I thought our edges would have had a field day against those two. They are missing some outside backs, but as well, Katoa, Raimi and Mulatalu. So that's positives for us, I guess.
Good time to get them or not? It's a bit of a catch-22 because Fitzgibbon gave him a real spray in the press conference last week. He's often quite measured back at home, but they are out of form.
They're out of form. They had a big number put on them last week. We've seen a couple of uncharacteristic games, particularly at Shark Park. They got absolutely touched up by the Dolphins maybe a month ago or so. They also had a big lead against, whoever was it, the Roosters in Perth? They had a big lead against them, and they just fell apart there. There's just a softness about them, and I know they've got a tough pack, but there's just a softness to them that we don't have. So if we play that controlled forward game, I'm very confident that we can win even without all those great players we're missing. But I will say one thing. For me, their dangers are their two centres. And Talakai is starting to find that form that he found when he got picked for Origin 3 or 4 years ago. He's a truck. Like, my concern is not just stopping him. I just don't want Taylor May to get injured. He's an absolute wrecking ball. And Kailiro, like, he's just another fantastic centre as well. So that's where their strengths are. I'm not worried about their halves. You know, Fanua Blake is down on form from last year. We're still got to handle him. Like, he's still a big unit, and they've got a good forward pack. They've got a good bench, but I don't know. I think we've had good success against them. It's just not at Shark Park. We seem to beat them regularly at Leichhardt.
A couple of things you said there, Rob. Soft. I think that's a really good word to describe them so far this year. That's why I think we have a really good shot this weekend. Our defence is anything but soft this year, and if we get up into their forwards' faces, we show the line speed in the first contact we've shown so far this season, they're going to really struggle with that. And we would have beat Brisbane, except they had a half who could play behind a beaten pack. Cronulla doesn't have that. Nico Hines cannot play behind a beaten pack. He cannot play under pressure. And I think that's what he's going to see this weekend. So I'm quite confident still, despite our outs, that our forward pack can put us in a position to win this game.
And if we can get that field position, the one thing I'm worried about, and I don't know if Junior has other teams that he thinks are better, I actually think Cronulla they run the number one block shape in the comp. They are absolutely lethal, and there was maybe a game, I think the week after we beat the Warriors went to Shark Park, and they were scoring tries where they had 2 and 3 man overlaps. So they can really strip you of numbers very easily. So the key to that is just making sure they're having to do that out of their own end and take risks from their own end. And given what we've done this year, we should be able to win the battle in the forwards.
They are generally a different beast, though, at home. I mean, we've had a great record at Leichhardt. This is their Leichhardt Oval. They've won 31 out of 40 under Fitzgibbon at Shark Park. I know they had that loss against the Dolphins, but I'd be wary about a bit of an ambush there this week.
I'm actually very wary of an ambush. I just think that our forward pack is so strong in what they're doing this year that I'm going to back our boys to get a gritty win. I think it is a task that they will be up for. You mentioned the press conference with Fitzgibbon last week. I don't think he's happy with them. I think the change of Billy Burns for Nikora shows that he's planning to try and make their edges a bit defensively stronger rather than being so, because they're a very attack-orientated team. Like, they're happy for you to score 30 as long as they score 31, you know? So, yeah, I think that they'll be up for it. There's a couple of keys to our game. They run the shape really well, like you said, on the edge, and probably better than any other team, bar Penrith, maybe in the comp. But we need to just make sure our halves, this is going to be a big game again for AD and Jarome defensively. I know there's going to be a lot of noise because of the Jarome Luai news and all that sort of stuff, but I feel like the key to shutting down their attack is just playing up and aggressive on our edges and ask them to kick behind our line. Don't try to let them want to score their tries through the middle, because they love to score on the edges. So Taylor May, Stafford Toa, and then our two halves, Adam and Jarome, they've really got to get up in Nico and Trindle's faces on the weekend.
And I think we've seen that we're quite capable of that on our edges as well this season. So I'm quite confident going into that we can handle those edges, and yeah, let's go.
I actually think that's one of the reasons why Benji's probably picked Skelton. I think Skelton's ability to just fly out of nowhere off that wing and just kill someone out the back. I think that's the logic in picking Skelton. I think he's happy for Hines and Trindle to throw a 3-man cutout pass to score their try. Like I said, I think the key is going to be getting up on their halves. Whoever's the second receiver out the back of that second block shape, it's about getting up in their face real quick.
And if we control that territory, they're throwing that shape from 40 out instead of on our line. And I think that's where they'll struggle.
Coach sent in some notes earlier, Rob. He said, number 1, this is Adel, game must be a grind. The Sharks love a shootout. If we give away 6 again, make sure it's on tackle 1 to set the standard defensively, especially when they're coming out of yardage. Number 2, they can be very disconnected at their 4-man and 3-man. Play shape from wide and move the ball from our end. And number 3, look to run on last. The Sharks can be very passive, prioritise getting back to help and transition than any pressure.
Can't argue with Adel, but I would say that in terms of getting into a grind, I think that's pretty much our game plan with every team we play. We're not looking to run teams off the park with a 40 or 50-point score. If it happens, that's great, but we don't play expansive. This talk from the media that we play Benji ball, it's an absolute crock of shit. Unless you consider Benji ball, working bloody hard, attacking in defence, good line speed, and just waiting for the opposition to make errors. That's what Benji ball is, if you want to call it Benji ball. These references to 2005 and 2010-11, they're absolute bullshit. We grind. We're working really hard. We earn the right. And I'm not confident of beating Cronulla, but I'll tell you what I am confident about. We're not going to beat ourselves. Cronulla will have to beat us. We won't beat ourselves. We're not going to go there and shit ourselves. If we lose, it's because Cronulla played a great game. It's not because we were poor. We will go up and bring what we bring every week, and it's just a matter of Cronulla whether they can handle it or not.
They've been a top 6 team, I think, the last 4 years. They seem to get a little bit of clowning from fans because they've been poor in the finals, but I think defensively they've been frail this year. They're averaging 27 points a game, but that's something that Benji be looking at and go, well, we've been much better defensively than they have.
I was talking to Steve about it on the way in, and he actually said to me, and I tend to agree with him, that Cronulla's a confusing team. Like every time you watch them play, you think, oh, they're not going great. But you get to the end of the season, they're in the finals again. They never do well in the finals. I think that comes around to pressure in their halves. But every year, they just seem to get enough wins to get themselves into the finals. I 100% believe our defence is far superior to theirs. Their defence has been ordinary all season. It was dreadful on the weekend. So I don't see this getting to a shootout game because I think our defence is good enough to contain what they're going to have. And they don't offer a lot in defence. So I think we can score some points this weekend.
Looking at the outside back matchups, Junior, obviously they're missing Mulatano and Ramian, which is big outs for them.
Yeah, it is.
And Katoa as well.
Yeah,
and Katoa.
I think Kale Iru, he missed 10 tackles one game earlier this season. Talakai defending at centre where he's been coming on as a second row off the bench for them. So I think there'll be a target there. I had the same thing in my notes. Adel gets to send them through quicker than I do though. But yeah, they are very passive in defence. And like I said, Wilton and Burns who have been defending at their 4-man, they are very, very poor defending next to Hines and Trindle. This is going to be another game, like I said, similar to last week. I actually think Cronulla is probably a better version of the Canberra Raiders. Right. So Canberra's like a poor man's Cronulla, right? They like to score. They don't like to defend too much. They're weak on the edges. Cronulla just kind of do it a little bit better. I think, but like you said earlier, I think there might be a little bit of an ambush with the mentality of their edges. Their edges like to sit back a lot, and I think Fitzgibbon's going to be getting them to get up in our face early this week, which is something they're not used to, and I think that's going to shock our boys a bit. Look,
and if they're not getting up, I think this is a game where Sam Fainu can really shine. I think that left edge that he's on, he's going to cause all sorts of problems with them if they're not getting up.
Tito to fullback, so Skelton gets another opportunity.
Yeah, look, he deserves an opportunity. Obviously, he had that clanger against South, and he really hasn't had much of a look in. He got a game against Parramatta, I think. He acquitted himself okay there. I like Skelton. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I just love that when he is in first grade, he brings it. Even the game against South, he had big meters, even for all that, the horrendous error that he made. Look, hopefully he has a good game. And again, we've had so many players step up this year that have, made the transition, done a good job for us. He's getting an opportunity. Like Adel always says, we're under pressure or whatever. He doesn't look at it as pressure, it's opportunity. And I think Skelton's not under pressure. This is an opportunity for him to say, well, you know what? If I have a good game this week, well, I'm going to be here for the next few weeks while Bull is out, and I can make a case for a wing spot, whether it's, left side or right side down the track. And an area where we really do have it over them is that back three. That yardage coming out of our own end, Skelton just adds to that. So Taruva being at fullback, he's still going to get plenty of metres this weekend. Luke's did a good job last weekend, yardage wide. Great job. And Skelton, you usually expect at least 200 metres from him each game. So I think we have it over him there. And
he'll be wary of Tito coming back into the picture. Like, this is the first week Tito's available for selection, and obviously he's named in our 19 jersey. But yeah, he'll definitely want to have a good performance because he knows that the two opportunities that Tito got to play, he wasn't tested immensely defensively, but he showed that he's capable of playing first grade. So that'll be in the back of his mind as well.
And the only problem I've had with Skelton this year has been a couple of brain explosions. And there's probably been 2 really bad ones.
Yeah.
If he keeps those under wraps, then he can really contribute to the game this weekend.
What will test Taruva most being back at fullback compared to on his usual wing spot? He did a good job for us a couple of times last year against the Roosters. He had a blinder when we won that game.
I guess if he gets targeted and they compete for the high ball, he's not the tallest bloke in the world. He doesn't seem to get targeted too much on the wing. So for me, it'd be the high ball. But, his carries are great. Again, I keep referring to Adel, but he always says Taruva lands on his belly when he makes that hit up. But I just think we miss him on the wing and the way he can finish a try on the wing. He scored 3 tries the other week. One of them I don't think another winger in our club would have scored. So I do not like the fact that he's not on the wing from that point of view. But we saw him particularly against the Roosters, I think it was last year at whatever it's called now, Allianz. He had a great game there. He does a good job. He's not Taruva, but he's probably our next best option. Sorry, did I say Buller? I beg your pardon.
That's all right. Yeah, I actually think he will get tested with the high ball. This is going to be one of my predictions. I'm going to predict that one of their halves will kick a 40-20 against Taruva this week. I think it's his defensive positioning at fullback that's going to be the biggest adjustment. I know he's done it in the past and he's a great talker, Tito, having him at the back. But like I said, I think we're going to want to invite them to kick in behind our line when they're in our red zone. And I think coming out of their half, he's going to have to be very aware to that early kick that Trindle likes to put in for the 40-20.
The big difference for me is he's not a ball player. He's a runner of the ball. And how we adapt our attack to actually suit how he plays, it's very different to how Buller chimes into the back line. So I'm very interested to see the kind of adjustments that Benji's able to make going into this weekend and over the next couple of weeks to make them the best of what Taruva actually adds to the side.
2 of the more talked about halves combinations in the NRL. Who's got the advantage?
We do. I mean, Adam's leading the points in everything, and we've got a 4-time premiership winner. So they combine really well, don't get me wrong. And I think Trindle's had an outstanding year. He's lifted his game. I know Hines is a lot stronger physically, but I think we've got the edge there. And I know we're going to get onto the Luai stuff shortly, but one huge advantage I think for Jarome Luai coming up is we've got 3 games in a row that aren't at Leichhardt, aren't at Campbelltown, aren't at Combank. So he doesn't have to worry about this media noise that's going on. He can go out and play his game, and by the next time we get a home game, I think if we've travelled really well and we haven't had a losing stretch, I think there'll be plenty of love for Jarome Luai for those that are disappointed in his decision.
The big thing for both Luai and Adam this weekend is being that leader of the side. Appy is the heart and soul of this team. He always has been since he's come to the club. We're missing that this weekend. The way he leads from the front, the way he leads by example, we lose a lot of that with him not playing this weekend. That's what Jarome and Adam shows it a lot as well, but that's what Jarome has to pick up this weekend. It can't be a sit on the left edge and play my left edge and be responsible for my left edge sort of game from him. We need to see him switching both sides of the ruck like we saw last week that Junior predicted before the game. We need to see that from him this week, and he needs to take ownership. And it's really hard because we're going to hear him announce tomorrow that he's going to another club. But our club right now needs him to step up and be the leader of the club while Appy's out. So that's a really complicated sort of position for him to be in, but we need it this weekend.
Game plan-wise, anything you want to see different from Adam or Jarome?
Look, I wouldn't mind seeing... You spoke about Buller and the playmaking ability that we're going to lose. I actually think I'd want to see Jarome and Adam run the ball more before it kind of gets out the back to the fullback. I think when you talk about our halves advantage, I think our halves are definitely have the advantage because their halves, in my opinion, are the worst defensive halves in the comp. So I think if Adam and Jarome can get one-on-one with those two, then it'll be easy. I don't think Tito needs to do too much ball playing wise. Like I said, once Adam gets on the outside of the second rower, it's sort of just a game of tip on from there. And we all know if it gets to a point where it looks like the winger's open, both our halves love to throw the cutout ball anyway. It's not going to be Taruva's job to kind of get it and then make that across the face pass.
The big thing I want to see from Jarome last week, and I thought that's why he had such a strong game last week, was the way he was actually digging into that defensive line and actually passing out the back. He played a real lot of times playing a halfback role last week, and we need to see that more from him because we do need to get Adam wider. And if Luai's not providing that ball to him, we can't push Adam wider. So it's really crucial that he takes ownership of that as well.
With the team they named, I was expecting us to pick on Burns on that right edge. But I think this week, look, everyone talks about how good our left edge is with Luai, Taylor May, and will it be Skelton outside him this week?
Skelton.
Yeah.
No, on the left edge.
Or Luke Lallee.
No, Luke Lallee. He was on the left.
Sorry.
Winger.
But I'd actually like to see us attack there with our left edge to then shift right and get to Adam. I think Adam and Toa are two of our better attacking players. And like I said, Cronulla like to sit on their heels a lot. So if we can kind of break them down, as I always say, about 10 metres or so left of that post to then do the shift back out to the right, I think we'll be picking on Braden Trindle when he's on his goal line all day.
What would be on your tip sheet for Trindle and Hines? They're still racking up big numbers, like in terms of line breaks and try assists, right in the top of the competition.
You probably do what you do to all good halves. You run a lot of attack at them and zap their energy from them so they don't have much at you. I think the big thing this week, guys, is our kicking game and our kick chase. If we kick like we did in our last game, I think we win. Adam's kicking game was absolutely immaculate. Jarome chimed in as well. I mean, we're not going to get a 1-0 scoreline, but that's the game plan. Just kick them deep, put them in the corners, don't give them field position and grind them to death.
Canberra's fullback positioning last week was quite poor, though. Quite often, a lot of those ones that Adam was kicking that were hitting the ground, the fullback was further back. So he's actually standing too deep last week. So it'll be really interesting to see how that kicking game goes with a fullback who's probably not going to give you the space that we got last week. I quite like Kennedy at fullback. I think
he's playing well.
He does a really good job. So that kicking game needs to be better than it was last week.
A couple of their more experienced forwards back makes their pack, I think, a little bit more rounded. Nickera and McInnes, both good ball runners.
It does, but McInnes only got 25 minutes or so last week off the bench, so he'll be a little bit rusty in the middle. And like I said, I think of all the teams in the competition, I think the one forward pack you don't want to come up against is ours. So I think we'll do a good job targeting a lot of traffic his way and Brayley as well there. Nickera is the one that worries me a bit because I just think not that he's fantastic or anything. It's just he's a huge upgrade on Burns. Like I said, a lot of my notes before the team was named was to target Billy Burns all day. That Fainu matchup against Burns is one that will win 10 times out of 10. So him coming off the bench, like that disadvantages us. The only other advantage is I feel like our bench is dramatically stronger than theirs. So once their pack gets tired and those guys do come on the field, we'll have an edge.
What do you make of the Sharks pack? It's sort of a lot of hype around for Noah Blake. Has he been a little bit disappointing for them?
I know he's been disappointing because I had him in my Supercoach team at the start of the year and I just got rid of him a week ago. So his numbers are down. I agree with Robbie, but I do disagree on Nickera. I think Nickera has always been poor defensively. I think he's a wonderful attacking player and the lines he runs are second to none. He's probably as good a second rower as there is in terms of hole running. So he is a danger in attack, but I think defensively he's just as poor as Billy Burns.
Burns is worse.
When there's Nickera and Ramey, and I know Ramey's not there this week, when there's Nickera and Ramey there, I know they're great in attack, but when they're there, like opposition teams just tear them apart.
The difference is Nickera has the ability where if Sam doesn't run the perfect line, Nickera can win that tackle. You know, Billy Burns can't. Like Sam just needs to run anywhere in the vicinity of Billy Burns and he's going to score a try.
Okay.
Tony Sukar, is his job just to be a workhorse this week? Do you expect him to play 80 minutes like KPP has, or maybe not?
No, I think he'll be playing the 80. And he's just got to do a job. So he's got to hold his defensive line. I don't think it's obvious he's not the attacking threat that Kai Pearce-Paul is. So we are lacking a little bit there. But I'm quite confident. I'm really pleased to see him get that run. He's been doing plenty of work. So I think he has a job to play, but we are missing a lot not having Kai Pearce-Paul.
Is that a little bit surprising, Sukar starting? Seyfarth's been getting the minutes in first grade, but you think keep him on the bench?
No, as I said at the top of the show, he's the one that's had the minutes. He's got the miles in his legs, and Alex doesn't. I'm not saying Alex can't do a job. Potentially there's a chance for them to share the role at some stage if Sukar's not travelling well, but I think Sukar will do a good job, an adequate job. I guess Benji's not going to, sort of invite him to promote the ball. I know Sukar's got a nice offload. We saw him score tries against Parramatta.
He's been very good in reserve grade throughout the season.
He has been good. Like he's an attacking threat, but again, as long as he makes his tackles, does his job, runs good decoys, that's really all we want.
I don't want to say it's a soft forward pack, Cronulla, but a few names there not going to stare you. Toby Rudolph, Braden Burns, Wilson, Colquhoun. Do you think our forwards clearly can run over the top of them there in the middle?
Not clearly. Like I said, we should win the forward battle, but I don't think we need to disrespect Cronulla like that. Like I said, I think they'll definitely be up for the challenge. I think they'll be in a good mindset Fitzgibbon's expecting a lot from them. They're at home. They've got a good record there. And I think, especially with this Luai noise, they'll want to come out and take advantage of that. It's going to be a close game. I still think we'll get the win, but yeah, they're definitely going to be up for the challenge.
For me, it's our line speed and first contact that's going to probably win that forward battle. And I'm very confident going into the game. We're going to show up with the mindset that we've seen all season. We're going to be up in their face, and they're going to struggle to get out of their own end, like we've seen pretty much all season.
The thing is, but they've got one key advantage. Like you look at the spines, and obviously we're missing Buller, so Kennedy to River, they kind of win there. I think we clearly win in the halves, but they definitely win that hooker matchup of Brayley v Hope, and I think the roll on that Brayley will be able to provide their forward pack. That's why it's so important for our forwards to win the tackle. Cronulla, when you spoke about how well they run their shape, especially as they approach the red zone, they run their shape well when they've won the play the ball.
Correct.
If they don't win the play the ball, their shape's not that great. It's kind of just going through the motions. The other thing they like to do with their shape is when they win the play the ball, so they've got the markers not where the markers want to be, Brady likes to take off sideways from dummy half, go out the back to Trindle, and then when they go out the back to Hines hits it like he's running a hole. He doesn't hit it to then play make from there. He hits it to try and run and score, and that forces your edges to collapse in from there for that tip-on pass. Like I said, the key for us to shut that down is if we don't win the tackle, Jarome and Adam and Taylor and Stafford, they need to realise we haven't won the tackle here. It's going to end up getting to Hines or Trindle out the back at the second receiver. We've got to be up in their face to shut it off so that the only way they kind of can score from that position is to kick in behind the line. We need to be inviting them to kick behind our line.
You mentioned pre-show you've gained a bit of respect for their hooker, Brayley.
Yeah, I have. I looked through all their highlights for the season earlier today. And like I said, a lot of their attack starts from them winning the tackle and his ability to jump out of dummy half and then get the ball to the right spot. Look, I still think he's overrated in the sense that people are mentioning him to be the starting hooker for New South Wales. I think Appy's clearly better than him. I even think, I know he hasn't been mentioned this year, but I actually think Wade Egan probably does what Brayley does better than he does. So, yeah, but he is definitely a key part of their team, and he lays the platform for their halves to play the way that they want to play. When Cronulla have the 4 games Cronulla have lost this year, I think that's where Brayley's been kind of disappointing in his performances. And then in the wins that they've had, he's been a standout, in my opinion.
The reason why I am confident going into this game, and it is going to be a close game, it's because they need to win that tackle. And there hasn't been a game this season that I can remember where we haven't won the middle of the field.
But we've always had Appy Coruscant in the middle. And Appy Coruscant's leadership is 50% of the reason why we win those tackles.
I'm more talking defensively. Our ability to get up the line, and Appy does drive the line speed as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So 100% that is a worry. Someone else has to take that responsibility this weekend. But I'm confident that we can hold them in the middle of the field, and that makes their job so much harder.
I want to ask you, because you mentioned that you'd be sharing the role of Tristan Hope with Latu. I actually feel like this is the type of game for what we're going to be lacking with what Appy brings to our line speed and leadership. I actually think this is the game where Jock needs to come on for Hope at that hooker role, because I think Jock's had an intent when he's defended in the halves in the 3 games that he got to start, where anytime one of our boys would miss a tackle and he'd be involved covering that tackle, he screamed at Skelton a couple of times on the edges where he had to cover for him and make those tackles. I actually think we need that vocal leader in the middle of the field, which is what we're going to miss from Appy. And I actually think this is the perfect week for Jock to play hooker.
That's a really good point. I couldn't argue with that. Latu, as I keep saying, he's a massive talent, but he seems like a softly spoken guy and doesn't impose himself, with his words. But yeah, I could handle that. But I guess, Benji's going to be the one to handle that. I just want to point out with the Cronulla pack, they have got a lot of size. I think their form forward's been Toby Rudolph.
Yeah.
When I watch the Cronulla games, he's just really making a dent into the line. I think that's surprising because Fanua Blake is meant to be the guy, but he's actually outplaying his props partner. And they've got some size on the bench. Hazelton's always found a way to score a try against us as well when he comes on. But this is a different Tigers pack this year, guys.
I'm glad you said that last line because that was my comment to you.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, Gary's always predicting a win, though, Rob. I'm worried about this week with giving our outs.
I'm not worried. I'm looking at this. I know it sounds bad. I'm just looking at this as a free roll. I mean, we shouldn't take a game like this as a free
Playing with
ride.
house money?
We're playing with house money. It's a game where we can be ourselves. And like I said, the pressure is on Cronulla. They're the ones that have just had 40-something put on them. No pressure on us. We're not expected to win. I think Cronulla are $1.63 favourites, whatever they are. But I actually still think we should win. The way we're playing, we don't have to, judge the game by the individuals and who's got more talent. We just judge it by the things you can't see, Robbie, like you see the spirit we've got in the team and the hunger and the drive, and that's something that we absolutely kill Cronulla in at the moment. So if we just bring our game and we don't beat ourselves with stupid errors, they're scoring tries at will off block shapes, I think we'll be right. I mean, I don't see it being a high-scoring game, but there's why should we be worried given what we've seen in 7 games this year, and more importantly, what Cronulla have produced this year? Why should we be worried?
All right, well, we'll be here Sunday to Coach's Corner and Claws Out. It'll be straight after the game, 4 o'clock game on Sunday, so emotions, I'm sure, will be high either way. But let's talk about it's the biggest story in rugby league, the bad news. Jarome Luai Jr. signing with the PNG Chiefs. Just as a fan, do you have a word for your emotion? Is it anger? Is it shock? Is it disappointment? Are you pragmatic about it? Where are you?
It's disappointment. Look, I can't blame him for wanting to make sure he's securing a better future for his wife and kids and his family. My concern and my worries come from the butterfly effect that starts from it. Now, I know he has this ability to recruit players, which is probably why he was a target of the Chiefs. I think him leaving in 2028 isn't the end of the world for the Tigers, because I think by then we'll have Latu Fainu or Javon Andrews who will be ready to partner Adam Dwayne in the halves. I think Latu Fainu is the most talented half that we have at the club currently, and that includes Adam and Jarome in that conversation. I'm happy that hopefully we'll be able to have Latu playing there. My worry is if we lose the May brothers because they decide to follow, or if we lose the Fainu brothers because they decide to follow, I think that's where all the work that Benji and Richo had built.
Jarome wouldn't get out of Leichhardt or Campbelltown alive if he recruits a few of them while he's at the Tigers. Let's be real.
Yeah, I don't think he would, but I don't think he's the type of person that would care.
Look, all I can do in this situation, that is the big worry that everyone has, I think, is that this is the start of a mass exodus from the club of players going. All I can do is put my faith in Benji Marshall, and what I've seen so far is every single one of those guys you mentioned have said they want to play under Benji Marshall. So, yes, they want to play with Jarome as well, but we've got to put the trust in Benji Marshall that he's going to be able to keep the squad together, and where he does lose players, that he can replace them. And that's to me is what gives me a little bit more confidence around that aspect of players leaving.
Your emotions, Rob, around it?
Yeah, they're mixed. They're definitely mixed. I don't want to lose Jarome, number one. I totally accept why he would leave. I don't want it to affect the squad the way it affected things last year with Galvin. The one thing that is an advantage is that Benji would have learned from last year's situation, and really, let's be fair, not knowing how to handle it properly. Like, we dropped Galvin straight away. We brought him back. We chopped and changed. We didn't know how to handle it. I think the club now is in a better position to know, okay, how do we deal with this? If worry solved anything, boys, then I'd worry. I just can't afford to worry anymore, guys. I go back to when Farah got shafted by our own club, and I think that's the worst thing that ever happened in the history of the club. We've seen 3 wooden spoons. We've seen the debacle with other things. I'll tell you what disappoints me, and it might be digressing slightly, is when Shane Richardson was pushed, he was deep into negotiations with Buller. He was deep into negotiations with Terrell May. There'd be no flow-on effect from anything if he was still there. Okay, I'm not having a shot at Sean because Sean's hands are tied. He's still an interim. He can't make long-term decisions as long as he's still interim. So it goes back to the stupidity we've got above in that situation. I can't blame you for taking the money. If it's tax-free, you can't stop anyone from going there. But if I'm the West Tigers, I'll tell you what I'm doing right now. I'm going hard at Tyrone May because I know the May brothers want to play with each other. And if I'm Michael Shamus, I'm going for Tyrone May as well because they've got a dream, the May brothers, to play together. But if I'm going to start worrying about, the May brothers might leave and the Faino brothers might leave and whatever, let's just give up. It's going to chop and change, and we've been through the worst of everything. And I think maybe that's why, as supporters, we've had to go all through all this so that now I'm not losing my shit that he's going to leave. I just accept it. And you know what? It's not only us. It's going to be other teams. Like, other teams are going to get targeted by their stars.
Johnson already signed.
Well, okay, but he's probably a winger on the way out. I don't think
1 year
wingers-
deal.
I reckon the NRL's created a monster, though, mate. I honestly think they're going to be a top 4 side because I think a lot of elite players are going to go. You don't agree with me?
They're all talking about this 7-star stuff. You know what it is to me? It's like basically being in COVID, in a confinement for the next 3 years or 5
Jerome
years.
doesn't think so.
But that's Jarome. And that, look, if money means, look, Jarome signed with us after he'd won 3 premierships in a row and after we'd won 2 wooden spoons in a row. He got to our club. He still won a premiership with Penrith next year. So it's not like he's going to, shirk the task. And we got a 3rd wooden spoon. So it's clear he was after the money. He would never have left Penrith.
It's got nothing. I don't think any player's going there to live in the resort style. I don't think that's the reason.
It's
they're
a money
going.
thing.
At 100% is the tax-free income. It gives the Chiefs an unfair advantage in the salary cap. It gives them a massive advantage in the salary cap because once you get to $1 million, it's like 47% tax.
But everyone's saying they're all brothers and mates and all their families live together and all. And I don't think that's as glorified as everyone's making it out to be.
Because it's good when you're getting on. That's not good when you're not getting on.
No,
so
exactly.
One other point you raised a moment ago that I do want to touch on, you spoke about the rumours that were around before Richo went at the end of last year. You spoke about Terrell May's contract and
Terrell May's admitted it publicly.
Correct. There was another rumour as well at that period, right before Richo left, and it was that Jarome was about to take the clauses out of his contract.
Correct.
So I think there's at least the potential there that the actions from our owners at the end of last year could have put us into the situation that we're in.
They
now.
have, mate. They sit on their hands and they don't do anything. And they got rid of I'm going to include Gus Gould in this, the best negotiator in rugby league, and they forced him to go. They put things in place that made him want to leave. But we can categorically say that Luai's clauses would have been out, Terrell May would have re-signed by now, and Buller would have been re-signed by now. So if any of those blokes go, it's on them.
And one of them's going already. So Luai is announcing tomorrow that he's going. Now, I agree with you guys. I'm not too concerned about his decision to leave. I think he's been great for our club. I love what he's doing on the field. I don't have any issues there. But the biggest thing we got out of him coming to our club was the change in culture. And I think we've got about 80% at this point of what we need from him. What's really important over the next 18 months is to embed that culture in our club. And you do that by keeping guys like the May brothers. You do that by keeping a guy like Buller. It's really important that over the next 2 months we get those decisions right, we get that sorted out. And the advantage we do have now is we have a little bit more money to make those decisions.
That's a lot of money.
Correct.
It's a lot of money back in the cap.
So we are in a spot where we should be able to sort out those issues that we have. So I'm very, very disappointed to see Jarome go. I would love for him to be here for the whole 5 years. But I still think as long as he doesn't rip players out of our club on the way out, I still believe he's given our club what we asked of him.
100%.
He's given our club what we've asked of him, but when you talk about the culture that he's built, all of that becomes undone if multiple people leave.
So it's really important we get that sorted.
I think that's the key thing you said. It's key to get all those other players sorted out as soon as possible. Like Terrell May said it on his podcast. He goes, we were talking about extending my contract and then it just disappeared. And he jokingly said, he goes, I think they forgot about me, and had a laugh about it. It's very key that we lock down those players because you see with Penrith won 4 comps in a row, and each year they lost multiple great players. Like not just good players, great players.
Top 5 players.
They've only got 4 or 5 players remaining from the first comp that they won. But the difference is they lost those players slowly over a period of time. We can't afford to lose 4 or 5 of them in one go when we've just changed the culture. When you've just changed the culture, I'll tell you right now, you can afford to lose Luai. You can afford to lose Turuva with him. What you can't afford is the package deals.
Yep.
If you lose Terrell, you're guaranteeing that you're losing Talon. If you lose Latu, you're guaranteeing that you're losing Sione and Samuela. You can't let that happen.
What about his words, Rob? Last year he was strong around the Lockie Galvin stuff, team first. Because it's going to create a circus the next couple of weeks. I know it's probably impossible for it to be put off until the end of the season, but are you disappointed in the timing of it?
I would be if Gary didn't make a really good point on Sunday night. It gives us now a chance to actually have that money in the cap and offer some of those players. And I'll give you a point in case. Jarome Buller, Brent Reid reported on 360 either last night or the night before that in terms of dollars, we're way out. Maybe with Luai officially going, we can sort of get closer to the dollars that Jarome wants. But at the same time, I'm worried that, Jarome leaving, or Buller might say, well, I think the May brothers might consider going, and well, I may as well go now, like it's all going to fall apart. That's disappointing, but like I said, I just can't worry about it, guys. I'm too old and been through too much to let this, get me down. I mean, if I want to look at it from a negative point of view, the window's this year and next year. That's what I'm going to say.
Look, the timing part of it is not Jerome's fault. The timing part of it is a situation we created. So when we signed him to his contract, we were the ones that signed him with the get-out clause, with him having to announce.
Talking about his words, though. He was going on about team first, and you said
I'll be here forever.
A couple of things he said last year.
So, yeah, he said last year when we re-signed Appy, one of the journos asked him, does Appy re-signing and basically saying he's going to finish out his career here make you want to remove those clauses? And he basically said, stop talking about my clauses. I'm here. As long as the club is loyal to me and treat me and my family right, I'll be loyal to the club. I'm not the type of person that when the going gets tough, I go with it.
They're all going to be bought up, those quotes.
They are going to be bought up. I think that the key thing to realise here with Tigers fans, and I've seen a lot of positive comments around Tigers fans in regard to him leaving, I don't think there's many people that wouldn't leave given the fact that he's got 4 young kids and a family to worry about. I think the problem, it's not so much the West Tigers. Yes, there's things our ownership could have done to sort it out and make sure we're not in this position, but it's something that the NRL needs to address, because when you are letting people get tax-free money to grow the game in Papua New Guinea, how are you growing the game in PNG when all their players are going to be made up of Jarome Luai, Alex Johnston, probably Brian Toto, and whoever else they can sign on these lucrative deals tax-free? It's an unfair advantage to have. And the only thing the NRL can do to neutralise it is give them 80% of the salary cap, or tax the players on the salary that they're getting from PNG to actually be reinvested into growing the game in Papua New Guinea, because that was the purpose of them being brought in. It was to grow the game over there. I don't see how you're growing the game when people were saying, look, we're going to stay in a 7-star hotel for 2-3 years, get a big bag of cash for it, and then we'll either retire or we're set to come back to Sydney. That's not growing the game.
Let's be real about it. It's not really about growing the game in Papua New Guinea for the NRL. The NRL's got a free side out of it. The government's funding the whole thing as a sweetener to Papua New Guinea. So the NRL wants that to be as successful as possible because they want that kind of free team to continue.
And they can't afford a team getting pumped 40 or 50 points every week.
Perth
that's why they need to.
But
that's what I was just going to say. Forget the Tigers, forget the Panthers, forget the Rabbitohs.
Perth's
forget
in a world of
mate,
hurt.
what's going to happen at Perth? If you're Cameron Munster, right? And you're coming off contract or whatever, he might have re-signed anyway. But
I'm not sure.
If you're a player like Cameron Munster or Nathan Cleary, as an example, if Perth offers you $1.5 million now, and then PNG offers you 1.5, you're not going to get taxed on it, mate. You're moving halfway across. You're moving to the other side of the country anyway. It's closer to move to PNG than it is Perth, isn't it? Like they're absolutely killing the Perth Bears. Forget about killing the Tigers, the Panthers, the other clubs that are going to lose players to PNG. They're just killing a franchise before it's even started.
The big thing I want to say, boys, is I'm on this podcast for life. But if Papua New Guinea offer me 150,000,
PNG Chiefs podcast, here we come.
I'm gone. I'll be
with you.
Get us a gig, mate.
Go the Camels.
But I know, Rob, I know this is a connected and resilient group, and we've showed it this year, but I feel my job as a host is to ask the question some of the fans will be thinking, could this derail our season? Because it just seems like here we go again. I know it's a very unique circumstance, a new team coming in with tax-free dollars, and I think it's a bit of a joke, but it's a reality. Could it derail our season?
It could. There's no doubt it could, but why should it? It's going to come down to the players. I think some of the players will be disappointed that he's leaving, but they'll also understand why he's leaving, and that's really important to understand. I'll give you some examples. Does anyone give a stuff about Taniela Tuiaki now that he's 45 or whatever, or Daniel Fitzhenry? These guys have got one shot to set themselves up for life. So his teammates, they're not going to begrudge him taking the money or leave him. But that's just the modern day. You see them at game. We see after games now, teams from other teams hugging and whatever after a game, where back in the 80s when we used to watch it, they'd want to kill each other and they wouldn't talk to each other till they got to the club. it's a totally different era these days.
And I think the difference between this year and last year, it's all about how you go about it, I think. I think as long as Jarome Luai has been upfront with the West Tigers staff, with the West Tigers admin, with Benji Marshall and with the players around him, I don't think there's going to be a major issue with the playing group. I think the difference last year is that there was a certain person who left our club who wasn't honest and who wasn't straightforward and who was walking around blaming others for the reason that he was leaving. I think that left a bad taste in the playing group's mouth, and I think that's why we had the dramas last year.
Let me pose a question to the three of you. Do you honestly think – let's remember how we played last Thursday night. We played a fantastic game, and that second half was unbelievable. Do you think we didn't know as a club what was going on with Jarome Luai? You don't think Benji knew what was going on, or whoever's doing the signings, or Appy didn't know what was going on? Like, surely Jarome would have confided in quite a few people. It's been made well aware that he was going to travel there. He's not going to travel there to see what it's about. He's going there to dot the I's and cross the T's. That was more a finality as opposed to
it was a promotional tour, mate. It was a promotional tour. Like, you have a look. He was all over the TV over there. He was waving. He went out to a football game and was waving to TV cameras there. The whole thing was set up. Even if he didn't sign there, the whole thing was set up as a promotional tour for the Chiefs.
But why I posed that to you is if the Benji and the boys know, is you're saying could it affect us? Well, if they knew last week, it would have affected us, and it didn't affect us. And we got
looking ahead though. I mean, Aaron Woods got booed as captain of our club. What happens in a month's time if someone else has gone to PNG? Could he get booed at Leichhardt Campbell?
We win the next 3 games, and everyone's going to be standing on their feet and thinking, you know what, we've got 2026 and 2027 to get it done.
And I think we can have a look at how Jarome handled his exit at Penrith. I know a few players came across with him, but I don't think there was any consideration from Penrith fans that he wasn't putting in, that he wasn't putting his best foot forward, that he wasn't trying to win them that premiership. He got them to a premiership the year he left. So if that sort of history repeats, I don't want him taking players with him, but if that sort of history repeats, then I don't think we really have an issue. He'll put in for the rest of his time at the club. I have no doubt about that.
Like he does every week. No one can question what he gives to our club.
To your original question, I don't think it derails.
I can't remember what my question was.
Well, you asked if it derails our club. I actually don't. I understand what people's concerns are, and like I said, my concerns are the butterfly effect. I think the butterfly effect is what could derail our season. I don't think Jarome himself leaving is going to derail our season. What people need to realise is whether you like him or not, Jarome Luai is a leader, and he's the captain of this club for the next season and a half. He's still going to have a full preseason with us at the end of this season, regardless of what happens, and he's still going to play every single game next year. It is completely different to Lachlan Galvin's situation. Yeah, we can be upset that he jokingly said things like, I'm here for life, don't worry about my clauses, and now he's using those clauses to get out. But he's not getting out because he doesn't believe in what the club's doing. He's getting out because he has an opportunity in front to set up him and his family for the rest of their lives. And for someone like Jarome who's come from nothing and has that opportunity in front, he'd kind of be a fool not to take it.
Who'd begrudge him, really?
And like I said, the issue is deeper than that. The issue is the NRL allowing PNG to have this advantage. Now, people might think, well, they don't have advantage because they're located in PNG. You can't change where someone's located, but you can't just let them, be able to pay Jarome $500,000 more on the same salary cap. Essentially, that's just where the issue is.
Look, for me, and that's a really big point. I think that's something the NRL has to look at. For me, we just spoke about Jarome being a leader. What's really important now is that he is a leader of our club. We've paid him as a leader of our club. He needs to set our club up for success, not just for next year, but for the years following. That's around the transition into what we're doing in the halves in 2028. He has to be involved in that. He has to be involved in the mentoring of Andrews coming through and the younger halves coming through. That's really crucial now because that's what he's brought to our club. The biggest thing we've got out of him at our club is leadership. He needs to show that leadership again next season.
Not that it's important. I don't think he'll be co-captain next year, but that we can cross that bridge next year.
I think he will, but I think, like I said, we've seen, and we've said it multiple times on the podcast this season, and Adel's mentioned it a lot actually. As someone who's coached like Adel and seen different playing groups and how they are on the field and whatever, Adel said this is a connected group that are playing for each other, and you can see that. to your point, I'm sure Appy knew. I'm sure Benji knew. I'm sure most of the boys knew that
You can't
this
name
would
him
be
as a
happening.
captain next year, but sorry.
But all I'm saying is, I think with that culture change, the culture change isn't Jarome. The culture change is Benji Marshall.
Correct.
Now, Benji Marshall brought players over like Jarome, so that way he could help change the culture. But if Terrell May, Taylor May, and the rest of the playing group, if they all buy into Benji the way they've publicly said, then I don't think Jarome leaving affects them. Like I said, the only thing that gets them out of the club is something that the West Tigers as a club can't match because of what the NRL's allowed, which is tax-free money. So I don't think the positive sign, and this is for the fans that are worried about, is our club going to go back to shit and whatever happened with Woods, Moses, Tedesco, Brooks, all of them. I don't think anyone doesn't want to play for the West Tigers now. There's still going to be guys like Appy and Kai Pearce-Paul and Twal who are still going to be at our club who are playing the best seasons of their life. So I don't think it's anything to worry from that point of view. Our culture has definitely changed. Like you said, now it's on our owners to make sure that, one, they appoint our interim CEO as permanent CEO and that we get Buller sorted out, we get Terrell May's extension sorted out. That's what the pressure's on now.
Is there any way we can set up our club in the Bahamas and fly in, fly out, and just take advantage of this?
Nick Politis, he's been based there last.
Find a loophole.
Yeah, let's
USA.
take advantage of this tax-free ride and just be fly in, fly out.
But that's, the positive thing, Rob, is under Benji Marshall, and you mentioned such a connected squad, even though the Galvin thing maybe derailed the season last year, in many ways it's been the making of the club. So it's always got to be bigger than one man.
Yeah, I agree. But again, I know it's not as bad, but there are similarities there. So I think there are similarities, mate. You got a guy that, well, look, do you think he's going to walk out and say, I'm leaving because the coach can't coach? No. I said there's similarities, Gary. I didn't say it's exactly the same. There's a total difference. You had a guy that we wanted to sign for 5 years on $6 million, which is basically what we signed Jarome Luai on, that said no to our future. And Jarome, even though it's for more money, has said no to being with us. That's where there is a similarity, whether you like it or not.
There's a big thing that's different, but the thing that's not similar is the fact that Lachlan Galvin was a young kid that didn't have 4 children and a wife to worry about, and Jarome Luai does. And the other thing is the Bulldogs legally, by the salary cap rules, couldn't offer anything better than the West Tigers. Papua New Guinea are offering something that is literally 15 times better than what the Tigers could offer.
But you're still saying you're leaving. But
hold on a second. Galvin left, to join the team that was coming first because, as you've said, we all know what his family think. The kid's a winner. He wanted to play for a winning club. That's what Galvin left for. He didn't believe our coach, and he wanted to play for a team that's going to win a premiership, and he wanted to be seen as a Nathan Cleary that's just going to win comp after comp after comp. Jarome Luai is not leaving for that. Jarome Luai has been given an opportunity by Michael Shamus and PNG, and they've said, you can set your family up for life. If your leg falls off tomorrow and you have to amputate it, you guys are set up for life. He's got that opportunity in front of him. He's 30, 31? He's reached the peak of his football career. His performances are going to get worse when he joins PNG. From 2028, you're going to see a decline in Luai. You're not going to see him go up another notch to another level like what he's done at Penrith, even what he's done in certain games when he's played for us. You're not going to see that.
You're still letting down your teammates. I get what you're saying, and it's all about them. I get all that.
He would have his teammates' approval. I guarantee you, like you said, they would have known that.
I said that he's got their approval. What I'm trying to say, though, is you're basically saying, I'm not going to win comps with you. That's what you're saying.
No, he's not.
I'd rather the money than winning comps. And I'm not begrudging him that, but I'm just saying you can't say it doesn't have a small effect.
So do you think he's tuned out for this year and next year in the sense that he's not going to try and get the Tigers a premiership in 2026 or 27?
Did you listen to what I said 10 minutes ago?
I did listen to what you said. And what you said is you're saying you don't want to win comps. I think he still believes he can win a comp this year and next year. I know he can, and I'm agreeing with that, but I'm saying there's some players, like one or two, that in the back of their mind will say, well, it's a pity he doesn't want to be here in 2028 and 2029. That's all I'm saying.
The difference is, these are professional footballers. The difference with Lachie Galvin is he left mid-contract. I know that Jarome had options he could take up for future years, but he's off contract right now. He's off contract for next year. So until Thursday, when he agrees or takes up the option for next season, he's off contract. The difference is Galvin found a way to worm out of our club while he still had 18 months to go on a contract.
Yeah, but we're talking about the flow-on effect and who follows, and this might sound like a bad example because forget the contracts. but there was a period where Sonny Bill Williams was at the Bulldogs, and I think Roy Azatasi left, and someone else left, and and he thought, stuff this. Like, I will go for the money to French Rugby Union or whatever it was, because everyone's ditching. So all I'm saying is the flow-on effect could happen if we don't handle it properly. That's all I'm saying. I'm not. The first thing I said was I don't begrudge him and good luck to him, but I'm just saying it could affect the players wanting to stay with us. Well, you know what? If he's leaving, I don't begrudge him. He's getting double the money, but you know what? I might go somewhere else too.
The biggest risk in other players leaving is PNG having an advantage in the salary
100%.
cap. That's the biggest risk. I don't see Terrell May leaving and going to Parramatta.
But we shouldn't have been in that position if someone was still there and already locked up Terrell May, already locked up Buller. And, I don't think the clause being out of Luai's contract would have made a difference. He still could have negotiated in November.
You're giving Sonny Bill as an example who walked out mid-contract without even telling his teammates. So,
But that's because his teammates were signing with South Sydney and other clubs without telling him.
So, yeah, but I don't think we're in that situation. I think we're in a situation where a guy has stuck by the terms of his contract. He has, I'm fairly confident he's
done nothing wrong. I'm not saying he's done. I'm just saying, like, Sonny Bill was happy to stay on the pissy not totally pissy contract he was on after they'd won a premiership to be with his brothers. Okay, and then some of his brothers signed elsewhere, and he said, "Fuck this! I'm going to French rugby, and I'll take the dollars because everyone else is ditching the place. Why should I miss out on the cash bonanza?"
Well, that comes down to the culture that Benji Marshall's putting in place at the club. So,
where's my popcorn, boys? I'm just looking for the popcorn. A little tennis net in the middle there. I'm enjoying this.
It's three-way tennis.
Never a dull moment supporting.
It all happens for a reason, mate. And maybe it just spurs us to a premiership this year or next year. Who knows? Like, I know he's going to give his all. I don't want that fallout, which I don't think it's all doom and gloom like you're saying. But I'm just saying we wouldn't even have to worry about certain players leaving if a certain administrator who was the best in the game wasn't pushed out by a bunch of dopes,
100%.
okay, that are egomaniacs and don't know anything about running a football club. They kicked a bloke out that got funding that they couldn't get for 26 years, okay, in 5 minutes, and these blokes sit there and want to give themselves a 46% pay rise.
Shane, it wasn't me. That was all Rob.
I'm not talking about Shane. I'm talking about dopey CEO and the scarecrow chairman of HBG.
Yeah,
That's
you're going to
what
upset
I'm talking
Shane
about.
again, though.
Egomaniacs, mate. They think they know better than the best administrator
This
we
is
ever
why
had.
I started following you back
He was
in
the
2021,
best signing we
22.
ever had, mate. He's a
Ranting,
better signing.
roasting Rob, he's back.
Better than Benji, better than Farah, better than Ellis, better than Appy. Shane Richardson was the best signing we ever had, and we fucked it up. Thank you, HBG, you bunch of dickheads.
Never a dull moment supporting the West Tigers. Entertaining as always to close out, boys, this afternoon. We got content the next 3 days on WTTV. Go the West Tigers on Sunday against the Sharks. Thanks for joining in.
Go the Tigers.